I'm Karen Crosby. I am a nurse case manager, and I have worked at Hospice of the Chesapeake. This is my 24th year. I have had one family that I have had 4 family members over the last at least 20 years, and it's been amazing. It really has been. I'm not sure that they have specifically asked for me, or if it's just been what I call a God thing, where I've just been put in their situation. But I started with the matriarch of the family, and then went to a mother-in-law, and then a son, and then back to a husband. And it's just been amazing to be part of that family over these last at least 20 years, and to be able to help them and support them through this process has been amazing, and I feel honored to be able to have been a part of that, and to be able to help them through this. I mean, I could probably tell you countless stories of families, and I've just been, as I said, so honored. I've met so many people that I never would have met, and just to be able to know their stories and help them through. But this family, with having 4 family members, is just amazing to me.
My name is Aleece Sewell, and I've been with Hospice of the Chesapeake for almost 7 years. Having aging parents, at some point I knew I was going to have to face my dad passing away on hospice. My mom had already passed before I had came to hospice. So he got diagnosed in 2022. At the very, very end, when he was in the hospital, and we knew things were taking their final turn, I had some difficult decisions to make. And nobody wants to make those decisions. And I had talked to my dad a little bit before. And I said, Dad, I think you know where we are. And I think you're heading to see Mom. And he said, I agree. And I said, then let's take you home. And he said, okay. And I said, my home or your home? And he said, his home in Shadyside. Hospice of the Chesapeake was able, in a matter of hours, truly a matter of hours. I think we made the decision at 1 o'clock. I called intake and I said, hey, I need to bring Dad home, and I need it to happen today. So Hospice of the Chesapeake had the bed there within 2 or 3 hours, and then HOC said, hey, we can't have a nurse there tonight, but I can have one there tomorrow. And I said, that's completely fine. But it was very nice that Hospice was able to come in last minute like that for the emergency where things had tanked. We weren't planning on this happening that fast, and to serve my needs. One thing I really had to think about was, do I want HOC or do I want another provider, because of the boundaries? And do I want truly the team that I work on, the nurses that I work with? Do I want them in my dad's home? Do I want them in my life at this intimate of a time? And the answer was yes. Because of the work I know HOC does, because of the work I know how they serve the community that we live in, I wouldn't want anybody else but HOC. I really knew that Hospice of the Chesapeake took a sense of pride in their work.
I am Annie Smith, and I joined Hospice of Chesapeake in 2001. Absolutely love it as a chaplain. Again, that is my calling, and I consider it a ministry. At one time, I had someone who was a stated atheist, okay? And so when I was introduced to them, they says, listen, he's an atheist. I don't know if you want a chaplain or not, but the person did want a chaplain. And I says, okay, sure. So I went in, again, non-judgmental with presence, and he immediately told me, I'm an atheist. I know I'm dying, but I have a problem. I says, okay, I'm listening. And his issue was he had a grandson, and he was very worried that his grandson would not remember him after he was gone. And his grandson was about 11 years old. And so I says, well, what have you done with your grandson? And he just rattled off all these things from a very young age, to the ball games, to the fishing, and all these things. I says, oh, there's no way he's going to forget you. I said, what you have poured into him will last a lifetime. You've given him the memories that goes far beyond life. And he will always cherish those. And it gave him such a peace. I think maybe a week later he died, and his daughter says, I don't know what you did, but he was so excited about life after you visited. So much so that they had me do his service. And I says, okay. And his friends would say, we never thought we'd be here for him because they were, he was a stated atheist, and that was his belief. But again, it's not about where you are in that part of your life. It's about what, again, will bring you that peace. What, again, will give you that meaning to say, my life mattered.
I am a teacher.
I am a teacher.
I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher.